Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Research Reality. So 2024 is now officially over, and as is tradition, many YouTubers have now released their end-of-year videos talking about all the highlights that happened during the past year in whatever way it pertains to their content. I did the same, actually, but instead of talking about the channel, I wanted to talk about some of the events that occurred over the last year, things that I just thought were interesting or had completely forgotten about, or in some cases, things that I didn't even know happened at all. And so we're going to do this by reviewing 3 videos from 3 different YouTubers that I think are definitely worth your attention. That's right, folks, I'm making a video talking about 3 other videos that I will link in the description of this video in case you want to watch more videos after you're done watching this one. Capiche? 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 And we can just keep feeding that good content straight into your algorithm. And there's my furnace. It's kicking on again. So the first video on the list comes from a channel called Ordinary Things, run by Josh Otten. So in his video titled The Diabolical Business of 2024, he covers many things, from political assassinations to coup attempts to the Boeing stuff, the Apple Vision Pro. But the first thing that I wanted to touch on a bit was the Dolly cargo ship that crashed into the Baltimore Bridge. So the long and short of it is that the Dolly cargo ship was traveling under the Baltimore Bridge. When it lost power, they called for help. They couldn't move or redirect their trajectory. They ended up crashing into the bridge, which led to its inevitable collapse. And the internet was instantly set ablaze with various speculations and conspiracies about how and why this happened. Michael Flynn called this a black swan event, which, if you know anything about Michael Flynn, you would know that he is basically the new age George Washington. That man has never told a lie, and he has never given inaccurate information. Just ask the FBI. No, but he did hardcore sensationalize that shit, as he does many shits. And then, not to be outdone, Fox News tried to blame the crash on the open border, of course. And then, of course, several months later, the official report comes out, and it basically says that it was most likely due to a technical failure. It's just interesting how quickly people can jump to conclusions when it comes to a major event, and then try to twist the event to fit their narrative, which of course this is not exclusive to just one party. Both parties do this. Many groups across the spectrum do this. But, I mean, sometimes the best strategy is to just shut up and wait for more information. Unless there's some kind of whistleblower or reporter or someone with actual inside information, there's no need to feed the speculation. If you ask me, but I mean, what do I know? I'm just a guy in a basement. And moving on a little bit further into the year, we had the presidential debates. We had Vance admitting that he made up the Springfield Haitians eating the cats story, which is hilarious, very hilarious. But that's the current state of politics. It's all about the soundbite. Russell Brand got baptized as a way to pander to his audience, more than likely. Not saying there's anything wrong with converting to a religion if it's going to make you a much better person, but I mean, he's just, I don't know, man, that trajectory. It's just looking a little strange the more you zoom out. Anyways. And of course, 2024 saw not 1, but 2 assassination attempts on Trump, which the rise in political violence is of course very concerning. Hopefully we can all just cool our shit down in the coming years, but I guess we will see. And we talked about this a little bit in a previous video, but globally speaking, there is a increasing trend where far-right candidates are winning more popularity within various countries, which on one hand is actually not too surprising looking at the aging demographics and the increased attention on immigration. And then of course at the very end of the year we had the United Healthcare thing with Luigi Mangione, and around that same time frame we also had South Korea attempting a self-coup, and we all know how that turned out. I mean, God, talk about a turnaround. So those were the things that I thought were interesting from the Ordinary Things video. Again, Josh covered a litany of other topics, so definitely check that out if any of that interests you, or if you just want another rundown of stuff. The video is like an hour and a half long, but the production value is a-okay. Moving on to the second video from the channel Good Work with Dan Toomey. Good Work is another solid channel that covers topics such as finance, the stock market, Silicon Valley, global management consulting firms, private equity, along with a bunch of other $5 words that I don't fully understand, but thanks to the good work of the team over at Good Work, I'm still confused. But at least I'm laughing. But seriously, solid channel, and their reporting is quite hilarious. But the first thing that I completely forgot about was Democratic Senator Bob Mendez pleading guilty on bribery charges, with those bribes being in the form of cash and literal gold bars. Like, what the hell? You just can't make this shit up? Now, if only we could stop insider trading from across the political spectrum, that would be delightful. But another interesting story that I, again, completely forgot about was actually about Chiquita, you know, the banana company. Well, it turns out that a United States federal court found them guilty of funding a right-wing paramilitary death squad in Colombia, which killed almost 200 people as they were protecting the most profitable banana growing operation in Colombia. Like, what a crock of shit! The company went on to pay $38 million in compensation to the affected families. But while that is an absolute crock of shit, if you know anything about Chiquita, or formerly known as the United Fruit Company, then you would know that this is actually just business as usual. So if you would like a dirty laundry list of monopolistic, neo-colonial war crimes and human rights abuses, well, happy reading. Also, remember those global management consulting firms that we talked about earlier? Well, McKinsey, one such firm, in 2024, they were ordered by the Department of Justice to pay $650 million for their involvement that helped fuel the opioid epidemic. They were charged with conspiracy to misbrand a drug and obstruction of justice, which the obstruction of justice comes from one employee in particular who was destroying evidence of their involvement with Purdue, the company that makes the OxyContin. In his attempt to destroy all of this evidence, he was basically emailing himself reminders to do such a thing. If that even made sense in how I explained that. It's another crock of shit! The video also touched on the dock workers strike, the Boeing strikes, and the Amazon strikes, which I didn't realize that also in 2024, Amazon was found to be manipulating the injury data of their employees to make it seem like a safer work environment. Yep, nothing shady about that. So that's everything I have for the Good Work channel. Now we're moving on to our third and final video, which comes to us from a channel called Task and Purpose with your average infantryman, Chris Cappy. Task and Purpose covers all things war, and I find it to be very informational, very educational, very educational. Chris goes on to say in the video that global conflicts have been on the rise in 2024, and not only that, but they're also becoming more interconnected. There were 56 conflicts in total, spanning across 92 countries, and over time these conflicts are becoming more interconnected. Definitely not good. Things are also not looking good in Mexico, where violence against political officials and journalists have definitely been on the rise in recent years, but also definitely in 2024. But in a chunk of good news, overall illegal immigration has actually decreased in 2024 by 98%, according to reporting. So, I mean, that's good if you want to report on that instead of always reporting the fear and the stuff. But of course, if your entire media or political apparatus relies on stoking fear and anger among your constituents, then you might not want to report on that now, would you? So I guess we'll see how that pans out with the new administration. There were also a number of new developments in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine finally got those F-16s. Russia finally got 10,000 North Korean troops, which they're now using to try to pry Ukraine out of Kursk, which Ukraine invaded earlier in the year. And just further escalations all around. Again, we will see how things pan out with the new administration. We also have greater tensions between the US and China, mostly in the South China Sea. Definitely have military buildup on both sides. Definitely not looking good as we move into 2025. And of course, this entire entire potential conflict revolves entirely around Taiwan, who China sees as its own. Taiwan is of course home to TSMC, which is the largest semiconductor manufacturer. In terms of actually manufacturing semiconductors, nobody even comes close to TSMC. So of course the United States has a vested interest in maintaining that supply chain, as semiconductors are obviously a vital portion of various things from transport to the medical field to gaming to the genesis of our soon-to-be AI overlords. I'm just kidding, but also not. And of course we have the conflict in Gaza, thousands of people dead, many more displaced. Overall, just a terrible humanitarian crisis, to say nothing about the war crimes. But of course, Hamas are not the good guys in this situation, so in some aspects, what Israel is doing is kind of a good thing. But it would probably be a better thing if there wasn't reporting saying that Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to maintain Hamas as a central power in Gaza in order to help circumvent a two-state solution. Because of course nobody wants to negotiate with terrorists. I'm kind of painting in broad strokes here, but you get what I'm saying, I hope. Or just look it up yourself. But Israel did a decent enough job of weakening Hezbollah, which is a Iranian-backed proxy. They did so much damage, in fact, that they had to pull their forces out of Syria to reinforce their groups in Lebanon. And that more than likely led to the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. Which again, that's actually pretty good. Assad was definitely a bastard, despite what Tulsi Gabbard might have to say about him. So yeah, we will see how Syria plays out in 2025. We'll see what new developments happen in Israel and Gaza. And we'll see what happens in the war with Russia and Ukraine. So that basically concludes the third video that we're covering in this video, but I did want to touch on one last thing. I was listening to Sam Harris's podcast, Making Sense, and he of course was doing his year-end review of 2024. And I'm going to end this video on the same note that he ended that podcast on, where he basically said, and it sounds a little morbid, but I think it makes a lot of sense, he basically said, live this year as if it's the last year of your life. Which, as morbid as it may sound, I think that's solid advice to keep in perspective, because if this was your last year on Earth, what would you change? What would you do different? What risks would you take? How would you basically make this the best year of your life? But I guess it hit me on a very personal note, because even in terms of this channel, I've been wanting to make these videos for years. In fact, I started this channel like 2 or 3 years ago, and I went like a year and a half, 2 years without making any videos for multiple reasons, but I mean, time just keeps ticking. And if you're not actively pursuing your passions or your interests, you'll never get that time back. So if you knew that you only had 1 more year to live, what would you do? How would you live your life? What would you change? Again, all good things to keep in perspective as we move into 2025. So even though these videos still are not quite to the standard that I would like them to be, I'm still learning many things, trying to get better. I'm still doing it just because I have to, really, because I'm compelled to by what I want my life to be, and I couldn't live with myself without trying at least. But yeah, so anyways, my camera's about to die, so thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the vibe. Definitely let me know what you thought about these videos. You know, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time. Cool, thanks, bye.